Thank you very much, and good morning everyone. I am thrilled to be here today to talk a little bit about my experience of returning to work following maternity leave. Now, I've titled the presentation The ABC of Returning to Work, mainly because I'm hoping these tips will be easy for you to remember, not because I'm suggesting in the slightest that returning to work after maternity leave is as easy as ABC, because I appreciate it is not. As I was preparing for today, I came across a rather startling statistic. So in a 2016 survey of female architects who had taken a period of leave from work to start a family, the Architects Journal found that only 22% of those women actually returned to the same job afterwards. And I suspect, hearing from other people already today, that that is true across the industry and not just in architecture. So, my name is Sarah McGonigle. I'm an associate architect with WICN. We are based here in Belfast, but we have projects right across the UK and Ireland. They're principally commercial projects across a wide range of different sectors and at different scales. Personally, my specialism is residential apartment schemes for private sector developer clients based largely in central London. And I've been developing that over the past 10 years with the practice. We're now starting to branch into more build-to-rent or private rental sector schemes as well. So currently at WICN we have 32 staff. 44% of those staff are female, and in our management tier, 50% are female. So we really are blazing a trail here, and I'm thrilled to be able to announce that today. It really does bring a different dynamic to the workforce entirely, and it's a fantastic atmosphere we have in the office at WICN as a result of that. But I don't want to spend all my time telling you how wonderful WICN is, so I'll get on with the real reason I'm here. This young man is my son James. He's now 18 months, and I took a period of 9 months maternity leave between June 2018 and May 2019 after I had James. So what I'm hoping to do today is to give you just a couple of tips, 3 simple practical things that I found really helped me in my return to work. So, A, allow time, and I mean this in 3 ways. First of all, allow time before returning. None of us want to think about returning to work after a holiday, let alone after a longer period of leave. But this is something I found really important in order to mentally prepare myself and give myself that time to plan and really hope to achieve the return to work that I really wanted. Secondly then, allow time after returning. You can't just expect to leap back into things and everything to be as it was before. You have to give yourselves a break and realise that it's going to take a bit of time whenever you first go back. For me, I actually used a mix of leave days accrued whilst I was on maternity leave and part-time working to do 2 3-day months whenever I first returned, just to ease myself in gently and give myself a bit of time to get my head around things again. And thirdly then, allow time on an ongoing basis. It's really important for your mental, your physical and your emotional well-being to build a bit of time into your week to look after you, because ultimately by caring for yourself you can care for other people. There's always that saying on the flights, put on your own oxygen mask before helping others, and that is so true. You really must look after yourself. So I returned after my 2 3-day months. I actually went back full time. That lasted all of 2 weeks before I realised that really it wasn't going to work for me at this point in my life. The light bulb moment was when I realised that actually my son was spending more of his waking hours with the carers in the nursery than he was with me, and it just didn't sit right with me. So thankfully WICN agreed to me working a 4-day week. So I then joined the 48% of women architects who went back to the same job but on reduced hours. So that was A. B then is build confidence. And again, this is threefold. So first of all, by making use of keeping in touch days. So I really would encourage you, if you're considering maternity leave, do think about using your keeping in touch days. They're a great mechanism to be able to get your head back into the game, re-establishing communication with colleagues, and just building your confidence before stepping back full-time into the office. Secondly then, build confidence by availing of training opportunities. Now, Ray's already mentioned this today actually. I used several of my kit days to attend the Back to Business course run by Women in Business. I find that actually to be a fantastic course. As Ray explained, it is formed of group sessions and also then one-to-one coaching sessions, and it actually straddles the time at which you return to work. So you have a couple of group and one-to-one sessions before you go back to work, and then that's followed up then once you're back at work for a couple of weeks or a month or so. That really just gave me the ability to focus on what I wanted from my career, and just an open and honest environment to be able to talk and learn from other women in the same situation. Finally then, build confidence by setting goals. So as part of the one-to-one coaching sessions that the Back to Business course allowed me to have, I was really able to delve deep into what I wanted to achieve career-wise. I was actually promoted to associate just 2 months before starting my maternity leave. So that was the biggest thing in my head, just how I was going to inhabit and grow this new role. My colleague who'd been promoted to associate at the same time as me already had technically a 9-month head start on me. So I was aware that was the area that my confidence was kind of lowest. Don't for a second think that I mean setting goals as intending to put extra pressure on yourself when you're returning to work. It's purely as a means of kind of focusing and guiding your longer term career trajectory. So that was B. C then finally is create support. I know this has been touched on a lot already, and it really is so important. First of all, by communicating with friends and colleagues, particularly if they've been in similar situations, been through a similar phase in their lives themselves. You can glean so many little nuggets of information just simply by talking to people. And again, keeping that communication going whilst you're on maternity leave, ideally before returning to work, and then also once you're back in the office, it really helps to build that support around you. So again, back to creating support. It's important to create support by agreeing a shared family routine. So I am blessed with a very supportive husband. He's also an architect, so dear help our son with 2 architects for parents. But he's also a very hands-on and capable dad. But regardless of how good your other half is, they're not mind readers. So it's really important to have those discussions with them before you return to work. Think about how your weekly routine is going to pan out and what kind of support you're going to need from them and what kind of balance you're going to strike. And then obviously once you go back to work, keep reevaluating that, keep communicating with them to really build that support strongly, and also obviously involve other wider family members in those discussions as well, if you're likely to have to rely on them to get you through your weekly routine. And finally then, create support by asking for help. Now, as women, we all too often put so much pressure on ourselves. We have to be all things to all people, but asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's delegation. It's good business management, if nothing else. Plus, people love being asked for help. They really appreciate you coming up and being open with them and saying, I'm going to need your help on this. And even if they can't assist on all occasions, at least by asking them, you're gradually building that network, building that support system around yourself. So in summary, oh, have I got my slides back? Maybe, yeah, just great. So when considering a return to work, allow time, build confidence, and create support. Thank you very much for listening.
Hello everyone, and thanks for coming along today to listen to this. I'm going to be very, very honest, basically take you through my path of my career and then having my children and what happened after I had my children and returning to work. Sarah and I got together to try and ensure we didn't overlap. So I think what we'll basically have is I'll follow on from some of the things that she has mentioned and be able to tell you my experiences. We're at slightly different levels. My kids are now 8 and 7, so in the school phase, primary school phase, and I think it's important to understand that things just don't change when you return to work. Things when you have children continue to change throughout your career because your kids will be going through different stages of life, and I'm talking to people now about secondary school and how I'm going to deal with that, never mind the university after that, hopefully. So it is something that is a lifetime, and it does have to fit in with our working lives. I'm going to run through a few slides very quickly. My experience has been very varied in my career. Again, I didn't have anybody in my family who worked in the construction industry, but I knew I just did not want to do a desk job. I wanted to do something where I had a varied career, but I didn't know what that was. I went to Jordanstown University after going to an open day and sitting in on the building course, and I did an HND in building studies, and again there was 3 girls in my class. I was one of out of 100, and that encompassed the building and the architecture courses. 90 plus guys, so it really, things have not changed that much, and that I think is what the biggest problem is we need to move the statistics on of actually getting women into the construction qualifications and courses. I started out in John Lang, which are no longer here, unfortunately, but from 1999 until 2000, I started as a trainee and could have done anything from site management to probably I could have been put into quantity surveying, anything at that stage, because my qualifications were very open. And I very early on went into the health and safety department as a trainee and found that it was just something that fitted what I wanted to do and what I was actually good at. And I started off as that trainee and became then the Northern Ireland Health and Safety Area Manager for the company. The company unfortunately closed down, and in 2000 I switched careers for a couple of years and moved to highway plant in Dunmurry, and I actually became a plant instructor, and I think I was the first female plant instructor in Northern Ireland as well. I still don't know if there's any others now, but I taught people how to use access equipment, scissor lifts and booms, and it was my contacts through the like of CITB, who I have been working with for my whole career, that ended up getting me the position, because the company knew that I actually was able to find the contacts and the information for them to set up a training centre, because previously they had just done hire and sales. Then in 2002, I changed again, and for the next 15 years, I worked for Lagan Construction. Started off when it was Charles Brand, and this is where I really started to travel as part of my work. And I was working Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Isle of Man at that stage, and just basically could have been anywhere throughout the region. Things changed in 2006 when WICN International actually became part of WICN Construction Group Limited. And at that stage, I started to travel worldwide. And I worked in the Caribbean. I would have been doing a lot of traveling, auditing sites, helping set up sites, helping assist the work that needed to be done out there. And Fiji was another location where we had a site, so it was just not easy. Logistics were very difficult, but we just had to make the best of it and try and keep the success of the company running, which we did. And in 2008, I actually moved to Pakistan and lived in Islamabad for 2 years. We had won the contract to complete the first package, it was at that stage, of the new Benazir Bhutto International Airport in Pakistan. And this job required a staff to actually be based and live in Pakistan. And there were 7 of us from the UK. And then we worked with a partner company in Pakistan for the labour and the remainder of the managers for the company. So again, this is a very, very challenging. Very few women. There was myself and there was a local Pakistani female engineer on the site, and there were about 2,000 guys. So it was very different. But something that's come up already, and I just want to mention it, I think when you work in construction, when you're a female, I wanted to be treated the same as everybody else from day one. And I think that's the bit that actually meant that I was treated the same as everybody else, and I've been very lucky in that respect. But I do think it's how you actually show yourself out there and how you promote yourself. And if you're willing to just get on with the day-to-day job like everybody else, you should be treated exactly the same as a male colleague. And that's what's happened in my career. Then, at age 40, I had my first child, and 14 months later had my second one. So my reasons for having my children later were not of my making. They were basically circumstances. I was married from age 22 to 32 to my first husband, and he didn't want children. And eventually I just decided I didn't want to be in that situation any longer. So from 32 onwards, I was actually on my own again. And I thought I would never have children. And I actually got married to my second husband when I was 5 months pregnant with my first child. So it was a shotgun wedding at age 40, which is quite funny. But the circumstances just happened to fall that way. It wasn't what I had planned when I was in my early 20s. It just is how work and career and family happened. And it's been fantastic, but it has not been easy. Maternity leave period, I think it's important that people are aware, not even return to work, but actually maternity leave. There are financial implications. When I had my children, there was no enhanced maternity pay in the company at the time. And if you look at the slide, you'll see there, generally the statutory maternity pay is roughly £148. And you get that for 33 weeks, you know, after you've had the 90% for 6 weeks. You have a very expensive time happening, and you have very little money if you don't have enhancements. So for all the companies out there, very important to look at wanting to retain staff and offering enhanced maternity. Sarah touched on the career development implications. I also availed of keeping in touch days, and I do think it's so important. I also had another benefit because my husband worked in the company as well, so I didn't actually feel that I was completely removed from the work situation. I knew what was going on. And in WICN, we all worked very closely. It was like a very large family, and the majority of my friends are the people that I've worked with throughout my career, from my first days in John Lang to now. And it really is so helpful that you do keep in touch with people. with having the two kids so close together, I ended up being off work for 2 years. So if I had been away and not actually knowing what was going on in the business in a 2-year period, it would have been very, very difficult when it came to going back. Also very important to keep up CPD if you're involved in professional bodies. So you still actually have to be able to show that you are learning and continuing to learn. That is flexible, and the majority of it can be done at home. You can do online training, you can actually read, you can look up information, and you can use that for your CPD. And I've also said here it's good to keep in touch with any groups or organisations you've been involved with during your career. I've been a long time member of the Northern Ireland Safety Group committee, and I'm a past chair of that group. And it's my contacts within those organisations that have actually helped me throughout my career. So again, back to mentoring, you get what you give, and I do believe that if you put effort in personally into your career, you will get that back tenfold. It's worked for me anyway. Now then, when I did come to return to work, career implications, as you can see from how my career had been, I couldn't carry on doing what I was doing. I would never have been around. It wasn't what I wanted. I'd waited until I was 40 to have kids. And my choice was that I wanted to spend time with those children. I wanted to have a work-life balance. The company did approach me about 2 months before I returned to work to offer me a new role, which was the training manager for the business. And there were reasons for that the company needed. And the skills that I had, I'd been very much an advocate throughout my whole career of training and good training. And I really do have an ethos that you'll only get the best from your people if you train them properly. So it was a really good suggestion to me, and I did feel that it was going to be, the right thing to do. It was going to be a desk job, which is what I hadn't wanted previously, but I did have to take the responsibility for myself and understand that I had to continue and move on into a different role. Now, I had a problem because I've been told verbally that it would be on the same conditions as my previous contract, but when the letter offer arrived, it actually had a salary substantially below what I was currently, had been previously on before maternity. And I had then had to go back and negotiate a fair salary for the role that I was going to be doing. Now, it wasn't the same as what I had received before, but it was fair for the work that I was doing, and I wasn't going to be away like a lot of other people would have been. So therefore, you have to build in that there is going to be some kind of cost. And I also had issues with losing physical touch with sites, because that's what I loved about my career. It was the teamwork, seeing things being built, being able to go out and help with problems and be able to find solutions. And I knew I was going to be remote from all of that, but I just had to take it on the chin. It was stressful. I felt at the time it was unnecessary pressure and it was unfair. And I would advocate anybody dealing with HR, it's so important to give the correct information and give time for consultation prior to coming back to work. I also changed things within my career because I did want to work less and have a better work-life balance. So I took on a 3-day week role. And I will tell you that is a myth, because if you're doing a job, people are still going to contact you on the days that you're not there. I pride myself in being professional. If the phone rings and it's something that needs dealt with, I had to deal with it. I couldn't switch off. And just because you're away for 2 days, it doesn't mean that everything else has stopped around you. So I really was doing more work than the 3 days, but I was getting paid 3/5 of a salary. And I would say to anybody who's contemplating reduced working hours, take it very seriously and really think about what it will, how it will affect you, how the implications will be, because it's very hard to walk away. The other issue with that reduction in salary is that you have probably got excessive childcare implications. My childcare for 3 days a week for 2 children in a nursery was approximately £1,100 a month, and that's in Belfast, and that is normal, and this was 5 years ago. So you do need to take it on board. You do need to understand if you don't have family help, it can be very, very expensive. And I was just trying to calculate. I reckon it cost me £50,000 over the time my kids were in childcare until they went to primary school. So it was basically, it could be somebody's salary just being paid into childcare. I looked at Sweden. I think a lot of people understand Sweden would be a country where it seemed to be very, very positive in relation to childcare. They have a 3% of their gross salary cap on childcare, which equates to a maximum of £113 a month per child that parents are asked to pay for. And if they have 3 or 4 children, there's actually reductions for that as well. So it's very, very interesting to see what goes on around the world. The UK is ahead of some countries, but it's not at the very top. There's a long way to go. And do take into account financial implications. The other issue for me was being older. My career had gone on longer. I had savings. I had been able to deal with that and take the hit, but not everybody can do that. You also have a lot of implications with childcare worries. Kids get sick. You need some flexibility for working at home. Because I was 40 when I had my children, my mum was 38 when she had me. My mum's 88 now. Now, she still looks after my kids. She was a childminder until she was 70. Which I would have had a fantastic person there to look after my kids, except it didn't happen in the time frame. And she doesn't actually live beside us either, but she still looks after my kids the odd time now when I need her. But I do think, and I see at school, so many parents are relying on their parents to look after the kids. And with people having to work longer now as well because of pensions not fulfilling what they used to do, that can be a problem too, because some of the grandparents haven't actually retired. They're still working as well, for anybody who's having kids younger. My husband was also still travelling for work. So when I went back to work, I was still the prime carer, and I did have a bit of resentment that he could carry on his life. And like Sarah's husband, he's very, very positive. He's fantastic with the kids, and I will tell you, he's 10 years older than me. So he had his first kid at 50, and he's fantastic with them. But I was still seen as being the primary carer for the children. Then what happened to us? In 2017, we both got notified that we were being made redundant, and it was no fault of anybody's except the business situation at the time. Caitlin was in P1 at primary school, Christopher was still in preschool, and at nursery, where I was still paying costs for him until the end of that year. That caused us a lot of vulnerability and loss of confidence and a lot of financial concerns. We just didn't know what we were going to do. Mike walked into a job within a couple of days. There was no issue. For myself, because I didn't know how I was going to manage, I didn't want to go into a full-time role. There was plenty of those around, but I had to think about what I was doing. And in April 2017, I set up my own health and safety consultancy business. And the benefits of this, for me, working in construction, I could transfer my skills out of construction, so I can actually work in the construction industry or elsewhere now, because the health and safety requirements are more stringent in construction, so they do transfer into other industries. Many contacts, again, from my career have been priceless, and people have come to me to ask me to do work for them, and it's all about the contacts you make. Never, ever fall out with people. Always promote a good self-image to everybody else, and you'll get back tenfold what you put in. And it was brilliant because I was able to set my own hours and had the flexibility of doing some work from home, and some of my computer work, etc., could be done when the kids are in bed. So it works for me. The difficulties of having your own business: stresses of not knowing what to do. You're self-employed and you've only ever been employed. So for 25 years I had a salary at the end of every month. And then all of a sudden, you don't know if you're going to get paid. You have to bring the money in. You have to be a business person as well as what you're actually consulting in. Stresses of not knowing if it would work out. And again, it's back to the contacts. And for me, that was crucial. And then finally, the loss of a comfort zone. I knew my business where I'd worked inside out. But all of a sudden, I'm walking into other people's businesses. And you don't have that same connection. But I've made it work for me, and it's working well. So my successes so far: I'm still very happy and fulfilled at work. I work 2 days a week for Faithful and Gould, and I've had a brilliant time there. I work for private house builders. I still would do work for WICN. And again, it's back to the use your contacts. It does work. Financially, I'm as stable as I can hope for. Coronavirus has been mentioned this morning. That's our only issue, is now if something like that happens and people have to stay at home, I'm self-employed, I don't get paid. If I don't go out to work, I don't get paid. So you need to be aware of that. My good contacts and professional reputation have been vital, and luck does come into it. It's being in the right place at the right time, but also hard work. And the very end of this is that my husband is now working with me, and he's working through my business and working on the Belfast Transport Hub, and that's working quite well for us. So to sum up, a good work-life balance is necessary for positive mental health. Good communication, vital before you come back to work and after return to continue on. Vital for the employer and employee to be flexible following maternity leave, because so much has changed for both parties. Employer needs to appreciate the skilled employee and strive to facilitate them. You don't want to lose 50% of your workforce because it's not suitable to come back to work. But on the other hand, in construction, you have to travel. The construction sites are not on your doorstep all the time. So there has to be a balance. And finally, the employee needs to understand you can't have it all, but aim for the best deal possible. Thank you very much.